Hello students, welcome to my Unit 5 preview. I just finished grading your assignment activity, so I have some things I specifically want to address. I also want to say I'm always happy to meet one-on-one in teams with you. So, I do the optional office hours every couple weeks and certainly could talk to you then, but a lot of students like to meet with me to talk about, in particular, APA formatting or how to research. But if there are other things that you want to talk about, just anytime you want to reach out, I will schedule a Teams meeting. I'm going to have some quite a bit of time off, I think, over these next couple of weeks because of the holidays, so I can make myself available as much as possible if that's something you would like to do. Again, meeting me one-on-one to talk about whatever you want to or need to, including APA formatting. So I have my notes. So we're going to jump right in. The first thing I want to talk about is in assignments 1 and 3, I provided you detailed feedback. So you either got a paper that was edited in Unit 1 or your Unit 3 paper. So when I graded the papers for Unit 5, I went back to whatever unit you had an edited paper, and I'm disappointed to see that many students didn't incorporate that corrective feedback into Unit 5's paper. So, I take time to show you how to correct your line spacing or how to write a title page or something like that. And, again, the content in the big picture is the most important thing about your paper. I mean, you've got a writing prompt. I want to see if you can do the research, respond to the questions, synthesize what you're reading, apply that to your own setting or, to the writing prompts. But hand in hand with a credible paper is APA formatting. And there's just not that much to it. It might seem overwhelming, but it's really not. It's just, I'm sure you have introduced topics to your own students and said, just relax, you got to learn the rules. And that's kind of where I am is you just got to learn the rules because you you won't be taken seriously as a writer if your paper isn't formatted correctly, it doesn't have headings to guide the reader, isn't consistent throughout. It's going to throw off the reader trying to get their understanding aligned with how your paper is written. And, if you can't start a paragraph with, indent a paragraph, I don't know why that's the case. So it was disappointing to me to see how that several of you had not incorporated that feedback I gave you. So hopefully you will take advantage of it. Now maybe it's a case that you didn't know I had uploaded a paper. I when I worked on my certificate in public health, my instructor never gave me any kind of feedback. So everything was peer assessed. So I don't know what it looks like when an instructor uploads a paper into the grading feedback, but I do that. When I edit your paper, it's going to be uploaded. So take that feedback, please incorporate it, and then once you learn the rules, it's really easy to, you just apply them, right? Okay, the next thing, so kind of aligned with that, if if nothing else, use Microsoft Word's grammar checker. And I feel like Google Docs probably has the same thing. In Word, if If there's a formatting issue, there's a blue line. If there's a misspelled word, there's a red line. So I guess kind of grammar and mechanics are going to be blue. So I noticed several of these papers had extra spaces, for example, between the words. So instead of hitting one space, somebody hit two spaces, and the blue line was there, but the mistake, the student left the mistake. So take a look at your Word document where you see blue. There's probably a mistake. Maybe it's, you needed to hyphenate a word and you didn't, or a red line, it's misspelled. So take advantage of those tools. I also recommend Grammarly, even the free version. You download it and then turn it on for Microsoft Word, and it will tell you, hey, you need a hyphenate, hyphenate word, or, this doesn't sound quite right, something like that. So take advantage of these free tools because, again, your credibility is going to suffer if you've got misspelled words or, your paper's not formatted because it's hard to follow, right? So think about the books you read, the articles, they're all formatted correctly. And, that's by design because a paper that's not formatted correctly is distracting, or the mistakes are distracting. Okay. Let's see, a title page. You are required to have a title page. And I don't know why at this point in your program, some of you don't have a title page or it's not formatted correctly. So it's a requirement for student papers to have a title page. A paper itself that is not published does not have an abstract. So some of you are using an abstract in place of an introduction. And that's not, an abstract is designed for publication so that when the reader is looking for a source, they can just read your abstract and go, oh yeah, that's not really what I need, or oh, I think this is going to be helpful. So your papers for UO People assignments will not have an abstract, but they do need to have an introduction. So, so if you're writing an abstract, that's great, but it's not an abstract because an abstract is just to give a brief picture of what your paper is going to tell the reader. And they are formatted differently. So just know that also student papers do not use a running head. So there's one person in the class who keeps using a running head, and I keep saying student papers don't use a running head. That's solely for publication. So, sort of like a header kind of. So don't use a running head, don't use an abstract. Instead of the abstract, make that your introduction. Writing flow. All right, so I think sometimes you get to writing so fast and the ideas are flowing, you're doing all this research and you're typing, and then, go back and read that paper. And what happens is we, as a writer, I as a writer will fill in, my brain will fill in details or, information because I know it. I wrote the paper, I know what that paragraph is talking about. But if you look at it as the not the writer and just as a reader, things can maybe disjointed, because you just might throw in an idea and think about, is this extraneous information? Is it kind of random where it is? Yeah, it belongs in the paper, but not just a statement in a paragraph. Make sure that everything flows, that there's a nice segue from one topic to another, from one paragraph to another, so that it's all leading in a solid, consistent path for the reader. So just when you reread what you have, try not to fill in details that you know. So if you're using a term that not everybody knows, you need to explain that term because not everybody, you say everybody knows what IB means. I do, and probably your classmates do, but they may not. I mean, especially in the earlier class courses of UO people, if somebody has not taught in an IB program, they have no idea what IB is. So that's just an example of don't make the reader's brain fill in incomplete information or tie thoughts together. You need to tie those thoughts together for the reader. Okay. More detail. All right. So err on the side of too much detail. And that kind of, like I said, goes back to explaining terms, or, if you say, you list some strategies and then you say, a couple sentences later, these strategies will really, and it's like, whoa, what strategies? And I have to go back and oh, okay, yeah, think, pair, share, collaborative learning. Don't make me do that. Just repeat yourself. That's fine. Repetition is fine. There's a balance, obviously, but it's better to err on the side of repeating yourself, even just two or three sentences later, because you don't want to stop the flow of reading. So the reader has to go back and remind themselves what information you gave. So err on the side of too much detail, repetition, rather than assuming the reader knows or remembers. Reader. Okay, so that's what that means. So if you don't want to make the reader have to revisit parts of your paper to remind themselves whatever you're referring to. Okay. Let's see. And then abbreviations. So any abbreviation. Now, if you said a common term, so that's risky because what you think is common may not be, but like USA. Okay, pretty much everybody in the world knows USA means United States of America. So maybe you don't need to spell it out, but really you should. So spell out a term the first time you use it. If you're going to use that term again, then abbreviate. But if you only mention that one term, so what I saw a lot of was OECD, so the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Everybody knows what OECD is. That's even how it's referred in UO people reading assignments. Okay, not everybody knows what OECD is, and to be correct, you need to spell it out. And if you use the term again, abbreviate it. Do not abbreviate in headings or in your references section. So I know there was a reference that was OECD 2021 and whatever it's called, and then again, office or organization for it. Okay, so don't do that. And that's the other thing. If the author is the same as, say, the web page host, so the author is OECD and OECD is the owner of the website, don't list them twice. Okay, so you would just say Office for Economic Cooperation and Development 2021, and then the title, and then the URL. You don't write OECD or OCED again. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Otherwise, the papers are good. Most of your writing skills are very well developed, as to be expected. Some of you still meandering a little bit. Use headings. Headings will guide you and they'll guide the reader. But an academic paper, and that's what you're writing. Yeah, this is not maybe called a writing assignment anymore or called an essay, but it is. I mean, you're looking for information and you're communicating that information in an academic setting. The other thing I saw was many of you only used the 3 references and they were provided by UO people. You only have one assignment each week, and that's by design so that you have more time to do research and really delve into the subject matter. So if you're using 3 references in a 4 or 5 page paper, you need to be doing research. You should have a citation for pretty much every idea you put out there, and not the same one over and over. So I saw that yesterday in one of the papers. Was I think the person used Walsh, and pretty much every paragraph there was a citation for Walsh, which is great. The person was giving credit to the author, but use some other ideas. I mean, Walsh might be incomplete, he might be wrong, whatever, but you need to be doing research, finding what experts say about your topic. And yeah, we give you these reading resources as a springboard, but you really ought to be doing that, for yourself. So those were just some things I saw. You know, some of you take the writing more seriously and some of you don't, and that's okay. But you're supposed to be writing at the master's level, and so that requires you to work on your skills, whether those are APA or writing skills. So circling back to the very beginning, anytime you want to meet one-on-one, just let me know. I will work around your schedule as much as I can, and I'm happy to help. But I've got a lot of resources in the course forum that should also help you. You've also got the Learning Resource Center that UO People offers, so take advantage of them, and work on being a really good writer in the academic voice, because you're going to know a lot of information and you want to be able to communicate it in a clear way that is credible and comprehensive. All right. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm sorry this was a little long, but I just wanted to get some points across as we draw near to this course being complete and you moving on to your capstone. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the classroom.